sometimes when people have a hard time saying no, you just set rules. You
Yeah,
just go by the policy.
yeah. And this conversation is about creating a career that supports your well-being. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Mid-Career Reset. We are talking adversity to advantage, and thank you for tapping in on this live series. And if you've been following along, you already know we don't wait for opportunities. We position for them. And today we're talking about one of the most overlooked career strategies, which is self-love. Because here's the truth. If you don't advocate for you, who will? So today's conversation is a big one, self-love as a career strategy, because too many of us we just been conditioned to believe that grinding nonstop is the only way to success, right? But in reality, burnout, it doesn't build legacies. But I could not have this conversation without today's guest and my business friend CG. So CG, welcome. Tell the people about yourself and why this conversation is so necessary.
Hey, Drea, thank you for inviting me here. Um, this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. Background of how I got started is I was in sales, going through a divorce, needing more income, but didn't have more time. So I decided, let me start this business thing. I need my friend at the time, she had a virtual assistant agency. So I was like, girl, I want to know how you like. I see she's working at home and she's able to go and do things with her kids and all these types of things. So she was like, okay, come on in. So I started to build this virtual assistance business. That's what I thought. And it's so funny how businesses grow and evolve because I just felt like I was going to have this big virtual assistant agency, but that's not how it ended up becoming. Um, I got burnt out real quick because
Mhm.
everything that I was doing was requiring me to be there. Um, Even when I tried to scale or outsource it or whatever, it still was requiring so much of me. And I really just was like, Lord, I could see the vision, it was working, but it's like I'm tired. Even I would go to my kids' soccer game. I had to have my phone. I was at the traffic light dinging, constantly feeling like I need to be on social media, just all those things. And so at that time, that's when I started familiarizing myself with systems and automation. And that was the way out. I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I have to do it smarter. Um, Fast forward, that ended up being like literally what my business was all about, or is what it's all about because
Mhm.
it's like you have something, it's working, but if I have to be attached to it every minute of the day, is it worth it? Sometimes it's working, but is it worth it? And that's where the crossroads was for me.
Absolutely. I so can relate. The hustle culture. But we're here to shift the mindset and let's get into it because so many ambitious professionals
Right.
like ourselves, especially women and those that are in the middle of their career, the leaders, that we're conditioned to believe that hustling nonstop is the only way to success. So
Hmm.
I'll ask, how many of you watching in and tuning in today have ever felt guilty for taking a break? Drop something in the chat if you felt guilty for that, because we've been conditioned to believe that rest is a reward, right? When it actually is a requirement for long-term success. We've been taught that whoever grinds the hardest and overworking as I see it today and just listening in on your story, it doesn't guarantee success, but it does guarantee burnout.
Mhm.
It absolutely doesn't. And here's the truth. It's not a badge of honor. Success isn't about grinding. It's about, and what we're talking about here today is about sustaining. So, CG, you work with founders who've been in the trenches,
Mhm.
right? Been in the trenches, as you just discussed in your story of startup and formation of your business, been in the trenches of building businesses and teams. So I asked, what's the biggest mindset shift that leaders and professionals need to make when it comes to redefining their success or replicating success in a different area?
Oh my goodness, great question, because I feel like I'm on the other end of some coaches or some service providers. Like my clients are lazy. They don't want to do the work, and I have the complete opposite problem. My clients probably work a little bit too much and they want to be in control too much. They don't trust anyone to do anything. They feel like nothing moves without their permission, without their visibility, without their hands.
Mm.
Um, so the biggest mindset challenge that I see working with female founders is teaching them how to work with their heads and not their hands. Because I'm primarily work with service providers, so they are hustlers. Like from they can make something out of nothing all the time, but they're tired at the end of the day. Their family is suffering. Um, I hate to say it, marriages are not lasting. Kids are feeling isolated because mom is always working.
Yeah. And I can absolutely agree. My early entrepreneurial years was being a service provider as a salon owner
Hmm.
and technician. So I absolutely can resonate with that. And that actually groomed that hustle, hustle, hustle mentality, right?
Hmm.
And as I entered corporate, I started to see the networking behind the scenes and what different ladders, climbing, and success look like in different roles. And that fine tuned my thinking and led to me actually writing about that in my book, Choice Destinations, which was the shift from coming from being, I would say, self employed,
Hmm.
transitioning into corporate, right? It's a whole nother world. Self employed, a lot of people talk about self employment and entrepreneurship as if they're the same,
They are not the
but
same.
they are not
They're
the
not the
same,
same.
right? And I want to add, too many professionals, especially women and Black professionals, feel like we have to constantly prove our worth. And we're talking about self-love. And I want to say self-love looks like setting boundaries.
Mm,
It looks like knowing your value and knowing what's valuable to you. You mentioned marriages suffering, relationship suffering, and it's about creating a career that doesn't drain you. So, but what if I always like to reframe the question back to the audience. What if self love actually was just saying no,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
What?
Absolutely. Listen, so here's the thing. It's so much I can say about this topic.
Oh yeah.
I, so when you come, I understand that when people come to me, it's a business, it's business to business. Um, but sometimes you have to come in like as a woman. The way you teach people how to treat you is the result that you'll get. And I know a lot of times we hear that and it applies to other relationships like your friends and your partners and your kids, and it applies to all those type of things. But I try to get them to understand you're teaching your clients how to treat you as well. Because if I could share a short story, um,
Of course.
one of my clients, she got her light bulb went off one day when she was sick, like in the bed, like trying to get to the hospital. And one of her clients were like calling, blowing her up. And she was trying to explain, like, I don't feel good. She called her every name under the book because she was so she used to her responding by a text message. And that's one thing I don't recommend is anytime that you are a service provider, there has to be a line of communication. There has to be a dedicated spot for communication. So I don't recommend personal text messages, even with your team, with your clients. There has to be some type of boundary, like you said
Yes,
earlier.
ma'am.
And that goes with sometimes you don't even have to say no. I'm stating these are my office hours, these are my operating hours. Those are ways sometimes when people have a hard time saying no, you just set rules. You
Yeah,
just go by the policy.
yeah. And this conversation is about creating a career that supports your well-being.
Being.
Right? So I challenge those of you tuning in is just to drop one way that you're prioritizing yourself in your career right now. And if you got to search and think about, that for a while, let's hold each other accountable and find a way that you can start, putting you first. And I want to transition to the long game
Hmm.
and why slow, strategic, and I say hashtag moves that matter win the long game,
Hmm.
right? So I want to talk about why moving with strategy and not being in a reactive, and you kind of set the stage with the boundaries of communication, but not being in a reactive state as a leader, a business founder, aspiring to be an entrepreneur. Why having those strategies is the real key to success? Because I just see too many people are impulsive. It's the flavor of the day, the trend of the month, particularly in the world we're in today. And we all know comparison can be the thief of all your joy, right? So people are making impulsive career moves, and it is because the underlying reasons they feel stuck
Hmm.
where they're at. And these are legitimate, they feel undervalued or exhausted. So those are completely legitimate reasons to say, you know what, it's time to make a change. But here's the reality. When you pivot with frustration, you are reacting,
Right.
right? And in our culture, a lot of, we gone, right? But when you pivot with strategy, you are leading, and the difference determines whether you thrive or whether you repeat the same cycle in a different place.
Hmm.
Because I see that a lot, right? So we success is not about the speed, it's about the sustainability. And the people who thrive over the long term, they're
Right.
not the ones running hard.
Hmm.
They're the ones that are clear, they're strategic, and they have the grounding principle of the purpose, or why am I even doing this?
Why? Why?
Right. Why am I even here? So you have to know when to move, and you got to know how to move, or you just reacting. So see,
Hmm.
you work with these founders and particularly those that are in service industry. So what's the biggest difference you see between those who build a sustainable a path of success
Hmm.
versus, I guess, the hindsight look of those that have just burnt themselves out?
Right. So, much like you, Drea, a lot of like you said, many of my clients are female founders,
Mhm.
meaning they're working and they're building at the same time. But then there's another set of women that I work with. Their business is their retirement plan, right? So they're in a corporate position, usually some type of leadership position or your military.
Mhm.
It's close. Like retirement is they can see the light, right? And so they're wondering like, is this for real? Is this really gonna work? Is this for real? And I can tell them with all certainty that when you treat your business like a business, it will reward you like a business. And
Absolutely.
right. And one thing that I've also found, I know we're talking to some women transitioning from corporate into full-time entrepreneurship, or like I said stated before,
Mhm.
women who are preparing for retirement and this is their retirement plan. Um, a lot of times what I find is some women are bringing toxic productivity from the corporate space, and that I have to explain to them that maybe how it was done, but that's not how it has to be.
Mm,
And so a lot of the toxic productivity that they dislike or didn't like or wanted to get away from, that was in the corporate space, they subconsciously are bringing it into their workspace, and then they have team members, then they're doing the same thing to their team members that was done to them.
mm,
So the cycle keeps repeating. And then it's like not until we fix and understand what the core problem is, what the core issue is. And that's what I call like toxic productivity.
mhm.
Things are getting done, but how are they getting done?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. When you were talking, I was thinking of Erica Badu's song "Bag Lady."
Bag lady. Right,
Bag Lady.
right.
We're bringing the old junk into new
Hmm.
spaces, and we're talking here about going from surviving to thriving. And for those of you that are in the middle career, particularly in corporate, and have been the recipient of transgressions and things, we learn from that. We take those adversities and we turn them into our advantage,
Right,
right? So we're breaking cycles, as you discussed, of people that were perhaps victims of toxic work environments. And we're standing in the gap of no, we're not going to create another toxic work environment, not
right.
only to others, but to ourselves,
To ourselves.
right? So
Right.
a lot of people, this conversation is necessary because a lot of people figure this stuff out and it's too late. We want to
Mhm.
get ahead and prevent the burnout cycle, right?
Prevent the
So
burnout cycle. Right.
yeah, so we've outlined and identified, I think, pretty good the problem, but now it's time to get into how we turn this situation around, right? So
Hmm.
we got to get real, and with people and just say, how many of you have jumped from one exhausting job to another just to end up burnt up all over again?
Hmm.
Right. And if you don't change their approach, you just run it from, like I said, one fire to the next.
Right.
We see this all the time. I actually see a lot of people that pursue entrepreneurship. They leave that high pressure 9 to 5 to start the business,
Hmm.
right? And they end up spending and working even longer hours than they did as a corporate professional.
Hmm. All the
Or
time.
I got another one. They're taking every opportunity out of fear instead of moving with intention, right? So everything that looks good, and this I call it, and I've heard it said, shiny object syndrome,
Absolutely. Or
right?
FOMO. Yes.
Right. Every client is not your client,
Mhm.
right? So the power of saying no, saying yes to everything, that was just thinking I'll get the rest later, or this is the yes, and I want to let me stop and say we do have high sprint seasons as entrepreneurships, no doubt. There's cycles that come and go, but you got to acknowledge the power of the rest and reset.
Absolutely.
You got to acknowledge it. So work life harmony is not a dream, ladies and gentlemen. It is absolutely a decision. So CG, what are some of the ways that we can help founders and leaders and those considering career change? We want to break this burnout cycles. How can those professionals
Mhm.
prioritize themselves without feeling guilty
Mhm.
while still being successful?
Right. Um, of course, I'm going to say get your systems and your structure business systems together. Of course, I'm going to say that.
Yeah.
That goes without being said. But something that we all can start doing today is just being present, being mindful. Wherever you are, be there. If you're
Mm,
in a meeting, put your phone down. Someone's talking to you, put your phone down. Get off social media. Don't listen. Listen, because
Mhm.
I feel like we're talking about self love, but the
Yes.
root word is just love in itself, and love equals respect.
Mhm.
And a lot of times we're too busy to show respect. That's the problem.
Mhm.
We're too busy to show respect to ourselves,
Mhm.
the people in
Mhm.
the grocery store. All
Yeah.
we can just insert that anywhere. So if I had to give just one practical tip,
Mhm.
is to be present where you are at night. Turn off your phone.
Yep.
Put your phone in the other room. Don't be on your phone all night scrolling on Facebook.
Right.
And you're too tired in the morning to get up and fully get dressed and prepared for the day. You went to sleep late. Now you woke up late. You were gonna get dressed and look cute, but now you overslept. Now you're putting on jogging pants, or
Right.
um
Come on
now
now.
your hair is in a bun all day. Like, those are the indirect ways of showing yourself self love, showing yourself respect, allowing yourself time to feel prepared, be prepared, and be present.
Absolutely, because you don't want to make self-care, as you described, an
An
afterthought.
afterthought,
Right,
right?
we're not doing that. And I know in social media we've all heard booked and busy, and I even subscribed to that for a
Hmm.
while until I self-reflected and just said, you know what, I have to find my own lane. And that took me down a very a journey that was needed in that season of my life, right? And again, the intention, not the exhaustion, the simple thing as a bedtime routine,
That time routine.
the simple thing, those are the things. And you brought me, I know we both are authors here, but one of my favorite reads is a book. I think it's Eckhart is his last name, but it's called The Power of Now.
Oh yeah.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Very powerful book because yes, we this is about intention. It's about being strategic, but you got to own the moment, right?
Own
And,
the moment. I
and
love
and
that.
be the vibe that you want to receive.
Hmm.
If you want, I believe in the law of reciprocity. So if you want to have a flourishing business that attracts high value clients and has a sustainable path, you got to be the visionary for that,
Hmm.
right? We have to do that. So and like I said, case after case after case, the most successful people move with intention,
Hmm.
not exhaustion. So I
Hmm.
want everybody here watching today, we gotta hold each other hand in this state and this market today, is to drop one way again that you are prioritizing yourself. Do it this week. We got to create some group accountability in this space, and that dispels the noise, right? Because in this day and age it can be very noisy, right? So for us to find again our path and just understand that self-love, it doesn't happen by chance. And if you don't check it, you can fall into a you can spiral, right? So this conversation is so absolutely necessary.
Absolutely.
Right? I think we did a good job talking how self-love is an absolute career strategy.
Yes.
That right?
Drea, can I say one thing?
Yes,
When you were talking,
absolutely.
this popped up in my head. Um, you said something,
Hmm.
and a lot of times we have to say, define your own level of success. Define this, define that. So I'm challenging. I want to add to your challenge of holding them accountable. I want to challenge everyone here tonight or today, whatever time you're watching this. Define self love. What does that look like for you? How does that show up in your life? Because Drea can give you tips, I can give you tips, but until it's real for you and it's evident in your life, it won't stick to you. So I
Right.
challenge you to define, what is self love to me and how can it show up in my life every day?
I love that. I love that. I definitely I step into that challenge. I talk to my clients about creating their big picture, which is a take on long term strategy, long term goals.
Mhm.
But when I talk to them about creating their big picture, I ask them like, well, what time do you want to get up? Do you want to work on the weekends? What your Friday look like? You know, we get granular on like, do you actually want to go in the office, or is work from home your, or or
Mhm.
do you like predictability, or do you like variation? So when you talk about what self-love feels like, and you think about it in professional and personal in for your life, get granular. If you know that your zen is you got to get that massage once a month, we need to treat that like milk, bread, and eggs.
Mhm. Mhm.
Come on
Yeah.
now, like
Yes.
seriously, if you know your zen is you want to take a morning walk on a Saturday morning, or Sunday mornings is your time of it's a digital detox, right? So that's when CG talked about thinking about what self-love means to you all, that resonated with me, and I hope that you all get very granular and strategic, right?
Mhm.
So anyhow, CG, I don't know, it's been a great conversation, and when I talk to other like-minded professionals, it's always inspiring and motivating just to hear the take and the alignment,
Mhm.
right? Because this entrepreneurship can feel lonely.
Mhm.
It can be a lonely road at times, but we came and we dropped the gem. Now that you know, what will you do with the knowledge? Because it's one thing to know, but it's a whole nother ball game to show. Right?
Listen, that's a word.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow is day 3, the strategic career reset. And if you're ready to step into bold career moves with confidence, clarity, and a plan, you don't want to miss this conversation. And CG, tell people where they can connect with you.
Thank you, Drea. So you can connect with me on Instagram, CG SYGIE.co, and that's also my website. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram at CG.co.
All right, perfect. All right. And I'll say to you all, if you have not grabbed my book, Choice Destinations, yet, now is the time, because I am offering a bonus for the first 10 people that grab the ebook. You're going to get a power duo, because I am providing you also the audio book for free on March 1st on the release. So I'm very excited about that. I'm going to see you all for day 3. And remember, your career is not about working hard, it's about working smart. You take up your space and you move with confidence. So until then, make your next move your best move.